did Mike Macdonald come in and bring what you were hoping he could supply? Because you go and get this guy to hope not that you're going to replicate the Legion of Boom, but that you can lead with a defense that can be dominant again, like we did 10 years ago. Not that your offense wasn't functional or you didn't have good special teams, but it was as much the defense that was not carrying the load, but maybe at the forefront there of that team and how they rolled in the way that they did. And likewise, you're trying to do the same thing here with Mike Macdonald. And so we have our first year trends and what we kind of saw from him here in this first year to kind of operate off of, to see what he brought to the table that was maybe a little bit different from Coach Carroll, and maybe making sense as to why you made a bit of this transition, because these guys both are defensive-minded head coaches, but both of them have two very different philosophies when it comes to how they look their defenses to execute and the way that they want to go about shutting down offenses. And you felt that from Mike Macdonald in his first year. What was a very successful first season for him as a head coach and as a defensive-minded head coach as far as helping this defensive unit get better and improve. But let's take a look at just some things I want to go down the line of here today, which is want to look at some of the statistics that we can come off of and looking in a comparison standpoint to the Coach Carroll defenses and what was going on there with that, and as well as kind of look at the coverage usages from Mike Macdonald last year versus Coach Carroll and how that might have changed up just a little bit this year. And then, of course, we're going to look at a little bit of tape and dive into a little bit of a few of the plays that I want to show you where you really do feel the difference of what Mike Macdonald brings to this team with this scheme, its capabilities, and how it can move in a direction to shut offenses down. And that's really inherently when you get to Coach Carroll and Mike Macdonald's beliefs in defense, it gets down to the root. And again, it's just different ways. It's not, this is the best way, this is the best. Maybe this is the best way with Macdonald in this day and age, but they're just different ways. Coach Carroll's got a little bit more of the bend but don't break. Offense is going to make a mistake at some point, and then we're going to pounce and be able to take advantage of that mistake. Mike Macdonald's defense is more of, we're going to drive and make the mistake happen if we can. First, looking at the coverages here and marking a little bit of the comparison between 23 and 24, you can see that both different units had a little bit of variances in the way that they use the coverages. But you can see in the first place that stands out when you look at Mike Macdonald when it comes to his secondary is that he's going to vary things up very evenly. And this is back to a little bit of the heart DNA of Mike Macdonald's system, is that he wants you offensively to not know what he's doing defensively post-snap. So you can see that what stands out in the 2023 coverage splits here with Coach Carroll back with that defense and Clint Hurt was that you were running cover 3 46.6% of the time. So almost half of your snaps were dedicated to cover 3. And some of the problematic aspects of the prior defense had just been that you were so predictable, especially when you weren't disguising what you were doing pre-snap to post-snap, that when you're then running one coverage set 50% of the time, on top of the fact you're not disguising anything pre-snap, it makes offenses have an easier time of playing your defense, even if you have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. You can see here, though, he's got this thing pretty well split. Well, I mean, look, you're still 27% in cover 3, but I think that's a big difference from the almost 47% that you were rocking last year. So there's quite a bit of changing up in the coverages with Mike Macdonald, a lot of variance in there. You can see as well cover 0. That's essentially your casino blitzes. Coach Carroll did not like to run those. He did not like to risk those. You see McDonald going all the way up to 7%. I mean, it's 700 times the amount of cover 0s you ran last year prior to 2023. And I would reckon to guess, and looking at the coverages for Coach Carroll through a lot of his recent history here, 5, 6, 7 years back, that cover 0 usage at 1.2% adds up and stacks up to what he's been in recent years. And we again come back to unpredictability. When as an offense can come up prior to the snap and know you're going to be in that coverage post-snap, right? And then I know that you're also not going to blitz very infrequently, and you're certainly not going to run very many cover 0 blitzes at me to the tune of only 1.2%. I'm not even going to consider it as a possibility in my pre-snap recognition. I'm not looking to change protections or whatever, even if you show it to me at times, because I just know you're not really going to run it, if barely but at all. So you've got to run it a little bit to make them think it's going to be there and that they've got to be aware of it, and they can't just throw that out of the playbook. It's not a possibility. And in the coverage usage that you see from Macdonald last year, that's exactly what he was able to do with the variance. He's going to slide between all these different coverages. And remember with him, another inherent difference from the prior defense is that he's looking to always change what he shows you pre to post snap. A lot of what we do is in a cover 2 shell. Cover 2, though, you can see here was only run 16% of the time last year, 13% of the time cover 2, 3% in a man match kind of situation, or 3% man match situation. So you're in cover 2 shell a lot of the time, or predominantly a lot of the time, but you're only then rotating into that 16% of the time post-snap. And that just is about to disguising and keeping the offenses off balance in that way, which the Seattle Seahawks, of course, are really good at with this new defense, but was not a big part of the prior old defense. Keeping it moving here, and I want to show you some stats here that are related a little bit to, now these are just more of some subset stats that are just kind of look in alignment here to kind of get some general understandings here of the changes and what you got as far as the returns from McDonald this year. What I tried to do as well is I'm looking at 21, 22, 23 individually here on my right side. I guess it'd be the left side of your screen here. And then you've got 2024 defensive ranks on the equivalent data here to my left. And then we're going to do an average of the 3 years from 21 to 23 to give you guys kind of an idea of the differences in what McDonald brought first year when it comes to everything as far as a breakdown goes. Now, points allowed in 2021, these are from 3 years ago. You can see that even there, the data wasn't going great for Coach Carroll's stuff. You get 29th in sack percentage rate. Your completion percentage was through the moon. That the completion percentage is a big part of the predictability of the former defense, that quarterbacks knew where they could go and they had a high chance of success of where they were going to go because they were seeing it clean prior to the snap. Tackle for losses, 18, 13 penalties. You can see that the 21 was actually a pretty good year defensively as it started to just about this point really was sliding into the direction. It wasn't good. 31st in passing yardage, you can see. But you look over in 2024 with Mike Macdonald, and he's improved everything across the board. And not just from 21 as we go through this. I'm going to show you 21, 22, 23. It's the same way that Macdonald's 2024 season beats out anything of the last 3 years for Coach Carroll on any of these kind of items for the most part. 22, you were 25th in points allowed, 27th in yards allowed, 30th in rush yardage, 25th in sacks. You again counted this back to last year with Mike Macdonald, and 12th in points allowed, 14th in yards allowed, 11th in passing yardage, 16th in rushing yards allowed, doubled the improvement from 22 on that at least. Sacks were up last year, quarterback hits were up last year. Everything looking pretty good. Penalties, again, you can see have been an issue here for a little bit of time. It's Mike will get around to that eventually. Tackle for loss, we're a little bit higher with 22 and with Coach Carroll defenses. That's a little bit having to do with just more of an emphasis on penetrating at times, causing problems in the backfield in that way. So it's not as much with Macdonald. He wants his defensive linemen sometimes kind of holding things up at the line, letting the linebackers run free behind him. So that's a little bit of representation of why that looks that way. 23 points allowed, 25th, yards allowed, 30th, passing yards, 21st, 31st. You can see not a lot of great stats here in the final year of Coach Carroll's defenses there. He, again, had a good tackle for loss rate, letting that defensive line kind of get back there, but you probably were paying a price for letting them kind of run wild and free in there in the run game to kind of stop that up as they could. Penalties, again, you can see were a problem in that spot. Blitz rate for both these teams is going to be pretty low. Neither Coach Carroll or McDonald is really trying to blitz a lot. McDonald's usually going to be around the middle of the road most seasons. Completion percentage, again, up high. You can see that trend that I've shown you in a couple of these for the 3-year period where the completion percentage is up because of the fact that you have a defense that's very predictable. And if I can know you're in cover 3 and we've got an over route coming here on the backside, that over route's likely to be open because your corner's going to be playing to depth, I can hit that for an easy completion all day. You multiply that by 10, 15 times over the course of a game, you're giving offenses too many easy completions to be able to operate and move the ball up the field, albeit patiently, of course, because Coach Carroll defenses weren't going to let the top be taken off of their defense. Now, when you break this down to 21 through 23, so you go down to a marker here of 2021, 2022, 2023, and you look at the subset of average for that 3-year period and then compare it here to Mike Macdonald and what he did, you can see that the numbers hold up really well for Macdonald in his first season, where everything across the board is an improvement, and in some cases a pretty massive improvement from where they had been. Just the first year returns of this guy before he's even gotten all of his defensive personnel in there, gotten all of his guys in there to get this thing rolling at the full speed, already you get some significant improvement across the board. So points allowed, you averaged 21st in points allowed for that 3-year period, 28th in yards allowed for that 3-year period, 22nd in passing yardage, 26th in rushing yardage, as that was another issue that just kept coming up that used to be a part of Coach Carroll's defense you could kind of always rely on, is at least you'll get the rush yards stopped. You know, he'll make sure he'll force you into becoming one-dimensional. But as you saw the last 3 years prior there, that kind of went downhill just a little bit. Sack percentage wasn't necessarily bad, middle of the road there. Completion percentage at 21st over a 3-year period. You can see here blitz rate kind of holds steady too as well. And the hurry percentage was at 19th. And I know I've got 7.3% as the hurry percentage there. That's kind of right around middle of the road, I believe. Technically 21st, I guess. So not middle of the road, but 21st on that hurry percentage for 2024. So base stats here, I just wanted to kind of get this as a general understanding as you look at this, to where you can kind of get a quick snapshot idea of how things are moving in the right direction here in year one under Mike Macdonald. Again, saying that he did this in his first year, inheriting all of the personnel of Coach Carroll's defense. And Coach Carroll and his defense is looking for a lot of things in certain ways that are a lot differently than what Mike Macdonald might be looking for in his defense. Kind of a key point there on this. So getting that immediate returns despite the fact that you just don't have all of your purified fits, very impressive from Mike Macdonald's standpoint. And just one of the reasons why this was such a very successful season for Mike Macdonald in his first year. Not just the wins, not just being the youngest first-time head coach in the NFL, but also because of the fact that you were able to take this unit and really jump it right up instantaneously. And I'm expecting this to only go further forward this season. When you look at things like EPA, which is, of course, trying to more track taking the plays down and how they matter by importance a little bit more so, rather than you're just looking at his general stats and how they appear over a game. EPA tries to measure a little bit more of the quantitative value of an individual play and then stack those quantitative value plays up to get you a better understanding of efficiency, especially offense or defense when you apply EPA. So Seahawks, 2024, 11th, 16th in rush. Pass EPA was 8th. Time to throw was 22nd in the NFL. In 2021, you can see that the numbers were all worse across the board except for the rush EPA there. Time to throw was a little bit more improved under the Coach Carroll defense, so he was getting the ball out of the quarterback's hand faster in 21. But you can see that this is going to trend quickly in the wrong direction. 2022, again, all the numbers in 22 are going to be worse than 24's ranks EPA-wise. Play EPA 22nd, rush EPA was 24th, pass EPA was 19th. That's off 8th in 2024. So not looking good. Time to throw 32nd in the NFL. You were giving them all day. They could have a vacation. They could have a barbecue cookout. 2022 defense was letting quarterbacks feast in that pocket. 2023, a little bit of improvement, down to 22nd there, tied with what you did last year. But the rest of the other numbers there in 2023 are not good. Play EPA was 29th, rush EPA 31st, pass EPA was 25th. So some of your advanced markers aren't good, especially when you look at this comparatively speaking to 2024, where everything looks a lot better there on that one. Much like we did before, let me give you the average of the 3-year period and then kind of compare that to the Seahawks defense for 2024 to give you a little bit of a measurement of, okay, here's not a 1-year sample size, here's 3 years. I only got the 1-year sample size for Macdonald, but 3 years up against the one on EPA. And so your average rank for EPA for that 3-year period under Coach Carroll was 24th for play EPA, 22nd for rush EPA, 23rd for pass EPA, and 23rd for time to throw. So nothing that you were hanging your hat on that was really anything that was particularly good that you could lean on that was, okay, we do this good. At least we got this that's holding in right. And you can see those numbers directly relate over to Mike Macdonald this first year, improved across the board. Only the time to throw is the one that kind of remains up there a little bit. But even that, you did a pretty good job with, as you go back and look at the numbers on the sacks and the pressures from last year, that wasn't particularly too bad on that side. You can see here with the statistics on this side of it that Mike Macdonald absolutely improved things in his first year. It was a guy that's supposed to be a mastermind, or I don't know, I'm not going to throw genius on, but just a guy that's supposed to be a defensive trendsetter in a lot of ways. He comes in and he delivers the goods in that first year as far as the statistical planes show.